On June 30th, 2025, inside the Dreamstar apartment in room 502, our protagonist arrived at his home. But before he entered, he stumbled upon a box and thought it was something he lost when he moved previously. Our protagonist is Chen. While he was looking at the box, didn't expect his boss to help him find it. Even though he was tired, Chen carried the box inside his house, and he knew there were just some worthless photos and certificates, but for him, they carried a lot of memories. Chen put down the box on the table and began to open the box. As he just opened it, the box contained an honorary credit, a trophy, and a picture of him with a man named Park, and this was his first master of the game Star Sea Shuttle from H country. Seeing it, Chen smiled because this was the memory he treasured the most since this was the starting point of his esports career. 5 years ago, at Z Country National Esports Center, the translator interviewed Park Han-wong, and Park expressed his gratitude after coming to Z Country Semaida. He also especially learned some Chinese, but the audience are not satisfied with his gaming performance. Park Han-wong is one of the strongest combat power at H country in esports, but he apologized to everyone after not getting what they meant. Suddenly, a man was madly shouting, telling Park what he was proud of, and that if it wasn't for Dragon King being hospitalized, he would have killed him in minutes. So for them, he is just a shameless guy who thought he was invincible in the world and forgot the 3-0 of Dragon King back then. Because of that, Park forcefully took the microphone from the translator. Park belittled the guy, saying that a bunch of losers couldn't accept it, and if he didn't do it, he'd teach him a lesson again, and he called the guy trash. Then, Park gave back the mic to the translator, while demanding to translate the exact words he said. The translator is anxious about the words Park said, so he tries to translate them in a proper way, saying there is a certain gap between imagination and practice, so if everyone doesn't recognize Park players' words, he is happy to accept a challenge from the audience. After hearing it, the audiences are not confident enough or skilled enough to accept the challenge since they knew their skill gap is high. Meanwhile, a man named Du Shursen listened to what Park said earlier, and after hearing the translator, he knew that the translator didn't tell the truth. Then, Du Shursen told Chen to go up and beat Park, but Chen disagreed since he didn't like mech games at all. Du Shursen insists him not to be afraid and tells him that if he wins, he will treat him to a hot pot, to which Chen agrees and responds that it is served with 2 meals. Du Shursen agreed, and Chen stood up, to which the audience cheered him up, and the gamecaster announced that someone stepped out from the crowd. While Chen was walking, the gamecaster introduced Chen to the crowd, saying that he was from S University and that he wanted to fight Park, and other people wondered who he was as they had never seen him before. Seeing it, Park was kinda annoyed as he thought this guy was overstepping his bounds. Chen yawned as he felt sleepy and told himself a quick battle, quick decision, eat after the fight, and put his headset on. Shortly after both of them sat down at the computer, Chen was setting up his game first. Moments after, the gamecaster stated that player Park did not use the A-level mech provided by the organizer's preparation library and directly chose the S-level mech. When the gamecaster switched to player Chen, they said he could only choose the A-level mech from the preparation library. The overall situation is a bit unexpected, so the crowd was disappointed with Park after cheating. The game started and the battle got intense. Player Park triggered a flame pillar, and player Chen cleverly dodged Park's killer move. Upon witnessing it, Park started to panic as he didn't expect it gonna happen, and the audience was amazed by what Chen did. Subsequently, Chen had destroyed the core of the S-level mech with just one fire knife. Because of that, Park couldn't control his emotions and stomped in rage, while Chen was chilling on his chair. Afterwards, the gamecaster announced that player Park was eliminated, and he entered the battlefield again with an S-class mech. But player Park had terminated again for only 9 seconds. So, Park challenged Chen again for the 3rd time, but unfortunately for Park, it once again exploded into fireworks. Park didn't give up even though he knew he was already defeated and challenged him for the 5th time. Hearing it, Chen stood up and told him it was already the 5th game, and that Shursen would treat him to a hot pot later. Shortly after, they were both on stage, the crowd cheering for Chen. The translator asked if he must be a veteran player since player Park thought his skills were proficient, and why he had never heard his name in the mech circle. So Chen disagreed and explained that it was his first time playing mech. He had just turned 18 and had access to the internet cafe 2 months ago, and he only understood the gameplay after watching the game only yesterday, which Park couldn't believe after hearing it. Because of that, the audience praises and compliments Chen for being so good at the game, and Lu Chen might be the future world #1 someday. Meanwhile, Du Shursen took a photo of him and Park on the stage. Back in the present, since then, Lu Chen became an esports star, and later he heard from Du Shursen that Park retired shortly after returning to his country cause of his defeat. After becoming famous, Lu Chen chose Spirit Pain, a popular game, and his in-game name is still his name, and he also officially embarked on the journey of dominating the Z country esports circle. Then, Lu Chen saw his trophy in the box and quickly took it out of the box, as it was the war's Unparalleled trophy. As he looked at it, he remembered that it was the first trophy that he won in the Spirit Pain, and it was also the first time he fought with Candle Shadow Chaos. Way back in the first war of Unparalleled Cup's first Warrior Final competition scene. The gamecaster asked if it's the strength of a Hall of Fame player, and it's amazing, and the Candle Shadow Chaos and Lu Chen are facing each other, and the current situation is even more difficult to resolve. The gamecaster declared it was the Warriors' fight, with no fancy moves, only the collusion of the knives and swords, blood and flesh, and compared to other professions' competitions, the Warriors' competitions are more blood-boiling. Shortly after, Candle Shadow Chaos summoned his Crimson King's new flame, to which the gamecaster got so excited that he released his skill. As he attacked it, Lu Chen easily parred it with one move, and it was called Reverse Flow Galaxy, causing him to smoothly dodge it. After that, Lu Chen stared at his enemy and told him it was his turn. Right after, Lu Chen summoned his Taishan Sword Dance, so the gamecaster got more excited that Lu Chen summoned his highest difficulty infinite combo. So Lu Chen started to attack Candle Shadow Chaos, causing his skill to continuously swing his sword like a dancing one, and it got a 60 and 70 combo all at once, and the count is still rising. Lu Chen called him and asked how far he believed that he could beat his record, and Candle Shadow Chaos was stunned after hearing it. But then, the gamecaster yelled in amusement, saying one sword dances the world, that Taishan collapses the world, with 197 combos. Lu Chen already broke Candle Shadow Chaos's highest record of 196 combos, and the combo is still counting. The limit had not been reached yet. Candle Shadow Chaos's defense had broken, and he didn't have enough power to resist Taishan Sword Dance's stormy combo. Because of that, Lu Chen defeated Candle Shadow Chaos, and his combo reached 250. Then, the gamecasters announced that their champion tonight was born, with a total of 250 combos in Candle Shadow Chaos's Blood Bar limit, but not Lu Chen's. So the dynasty is about to be established, the legend continues, and they congratulate Lu Chen for winning the game and the Ancient Sword Dream Soul Guild for having Spirit Pain's first warrior. Back in reality, Lu Chen understood that it was the only time he officially fought with Candle Shadow Chaos, and he was amazed that the organizer actually engraved the Taishan Sword Dance's combo count on the trophy as well. Lu Chen felt sad that the war's Unparalleled trophy also became the 250th trophy for a very long time, and the boss and others made fun of him. Then Lu Chen picked up his Hall of Fame Certificate of Honor. With various records and first ranking, he successfully entered the Hall of Fame at that time, and as the youngest member of the Hall of Fame in history, he was at the front page headline of every game media every single day. But then, the medical record bag was after that certificate, and that life is unpredictable. As he saw that, he felt sad about how spirited he was back then, but now he was embarrassed if it wasn't for that accident. Back then, when Lu Chen was in the hospital, the doctor informed him that considering the severity of the vehicle accident he was involved in, his recovery from it took only 6 months, but his brain nerves were still in a state of loss, and there will be a 3-second delay when the nerves are highly concentrated. Under normal circumstances, it doesn't affect his normal life. But the doctor warned him that if he engaged in high-intensity mental activities, it will have a great impact to him. Hearing it, his journey took a drastic U-turn, making his life completely change, and the rumors started to spread that someone said his ranking had dropped again. It had already dropped to after 100. A group of players, one of them stated that a 100th ranked Hall of Fame member is too funny, and now he just got ranked 98th, and jokingly said that the officials also gave him a Hall of Fame certificate. Meanwhile, Lu Chen was on their side, and they were not aware that Lu Chen was looking at them. To their surprise, the woman saw that Lu Chen was looking at them, but the other guy didn't care at all since their ranking was ahead of his, and there were still 3 people. Lu Chen gave them a death glare and told them to get lost, and because of that car accident, Lu Chen went from being the first master to being a clown that others could mock at will. Hearing it, the 3 players were scared to death, causing them to back off. Lu Chen knew it was pointless to vent anger at the mockers, and continued to walk like nothing happened. But the clown man looked at him one more time, and his face was terrified after all. Lu Chen reached the Ancient Sword Dream Soul Guild. As he saw the guild and confusingly asked if the guild was raided by someone, and how did it become a junk market. Then, a woman suddenly went down and told Lu Chen that he was there, to which Lu Chen asked what had happened to the guild. The woman was the guild leader of the Ancient Sword Dream Soul. Water One Side explained that a few of the members were afraid of being chased and killed, so they made a scene to quit. They grabbed everything, and were more ruthless than the other hostile guilds. Hearing it, Lu Chen was worried about her and asked if she was okay, and Water One Side said nothing to worry about her, that she was fine at all, so Lu Chen informed about his withdrawal application. Lu Chen sighed and told her that maybe if he quit, those enemies would leave the Ancient Sword Dream Soul alone. But then, Water One Slide tapped his shoulder and asked what he was talking about, which Lu Chen was shocked. Water One Slide encouraged him, that he was one of the founders of the Ancient Sword Dream Soul, and he was the 4 stars of the sun, moon, and dust can't be missing one. She knew their target was him, as well as the Ancient Sword Dream Soul. Back then, their guild was too famous, and the fastest way to become that new king was to defeat the old one, since too many people wanted to step on their bones and ascend the throne. But then Water One Slide informed Lu Chen, saying yesterday someone sent him a challenge invitation on behalf of the guild, and Lu Chen asked if it was Candle Shadow Chaos, to which she agreed. Lu Chen's voice became cold as he ordered her to reject it, and explained that he couldn't beat him right now. Hearing it, Water One Slide agreed to reject him on behalf of the guild. As she clicked the reject, an error message popped up, saying unable to reject since the Candle Dragon Guild has withdrawn the challenge request and sent a public apology letter. Lu Chen noticed something odd and asked what was wrong. Then Water One Slide explained that the senior management of the Candle Dragon Guild withdrew the challenge and sent a public apology letter. Hearing it, Lu Chen was confused and asked to whom, to which she stated that it was to them, and they thought he didn't have the qualifications to compete with Candle Shadow Chaos. Upon realizing it, Lu Chen understood that this challenge would only lower Candle Shadow Chaos's value. Water One Slide clarified that they think Candle Shadow Chaos's random challenge behavior has caused some impact on their Ancient Sword Dream Soul Guild and apologized to them. And that letter was public and has been reposted more than 1 million times in the game, and everyone knows. Then she saw the face of Lu Chen and started to worry, as she quickly asked if he was okay, but Lu Chen seemed sad and froze for a moment. But Lu Chen acted like it was nothing at all and awkwardly told her that he understood and that if there was nothing else, he'd continue cleaning the dungeons. After that, Lu Chen quickly left the guild, while Water One Slide was worried, and she knew Lu Chen was sad. While Lu Chen was taking a shower, after the apology letter incident, it was the joint strangulation led by Candle Dragon Guild, and the Ancient Sword Dream Soul completely fell. His esports career also came to an end. In the end, Lu Chen and the boss burned 7 dragon grasslands before their guild closed down, and they deleted their accounts and quit the game since it's their way of expressing the Ancient Sword Dream Soul's dissatisfaction. After those thoughts, he looked at the clock and checked it was 11 o'clock in the evening. Lu Chen decided to use the computer before going to bed. So Lu Chen sat down on his chair and turned his computer on. As it was opening, he complained that the boot was delayed and was so slow that he knew the delay of his computer seemed to be pretty slow too. Shortly after, Lu Chen chose to look at the forum headline again. Then Lu Chen searched and clicked the main link of the website. Lu Chen's eyes turned sad. Even though he had expected what he read, he felt the same thing. As he opened it, the article stated that one of the Hall of Fame members, Lu Chen, burned 7 dragon grassland, and all 5 members of the Ancient Sword Dream Soil quit the game, to which Lu Chen was shocked that even they all quit the game, there were still 100,000 comments and cursing him. After reading it, Lu Chen leaned back on his gaming chair and blamed those players chasing him relentlessly back then. He wouldn't have burned 7 dragon grasslands like that, and Lu Chen felt more tired about it. But then, he realized why he started browsing the forum again and encouraged himself to get some sleep. As he was about to stand up, he saw the box underneath the table and sensed familiarity about it. Lu Chen knew it was the Heaven's Order gaming helmet and the Hall of Fame special helmet sent by Yueheng Group. He realized that, being chased for so long, he almost forgot that he was also a Hall of Fame member and determined to take a look as he clicked search the game. Shortly after, on the monitor, Heaven's Order appeared on the screen, informing that Spirit Pain closed. Heaven's Order is here. Tonight at midnight releasing new Heaven's Order, beyond Spirit Pain's design, more gaming professions, new gameplay modes. To which Chen was surprised that an indeed level higher than Spirit Pain. The VFX and graphics are another level. But then, Chen caught his attention to that slogan on the game, saying gaming professions. How could you be thrilled if you aren't here for a fierce battle? Chen questioned about the line, how could he be thrilled, or thrilled if he wasn't here, suddenly someone calling him. So, Chen was surprised it was Du Shisan and quickly answered and greeted him. But then, Chen asked what he wanted from him in the middle of the night, and Du Shisan was raging and asked where he was, and why his phones were off, to which Chen explained that he forgot and didn't know where he went himself. Hearing it, Du Shisan was confused and asked if he was drunk, and Spirit Pain closed down. So he mustn't mind those upsetting things, as he encouraged him that what they lost, they would get back from Heaven's Order. But then Chen expressed a cold reply, saying he had already given up, and Du Shisan could go to Heaven's Order for himself. Du Shisan got infuriated and asked him if he was joking, and if he was still the Chen that he knew. But then, Chen explained that he liked his situation right now, and he didn't want to humiliate himself again. As Chen suggested to Du Shisan to give up and hang up the call, due to frustration, Du Shisan yelled that he was the debut that tore Park Han Wong and Candle Shadow Chaos, the youngest member of the Hall of Fame, and asked if he was going to just give up like that, if he was willing. Upon hearing it, Chen got annoyed and asked what he really wanted to know. Du Shisan yelled and explained that he knew that when being bullied, he had to fight back, watching the guild with only the 5 people left, and finally being chased and quitting the game, and asked again if he really wanted to give up, while Chen was frozen for a moment. Then, Du Shisan reminded him he was the Spirit's Pain warrior since the challenge was withdrawn and received a viral apology letter. That was humiliation, and if he was really willing to swallow it. Chen had enough as he yelled back and asked how could he be willing, and what could he even do. Every day he logged in and got chased. His comrades were harassed and quit the game, and he was not that Hall of Fame Chen anymore. Hearing it, Du Shisan shivered his hand due to his anger, and he cursed Chen and called him a bastard. Du Shisan called him a coward repeatedly and bid farewell to him after, while Chen left devastated. After the call, Chen removed his headset. The word coward was playing on his head continuously, and Chen realized as he recalled those moments he fought with Candle Shadow Chaos, that it was a truly thrilling battle, the joy of victory and public humiliation, relentless pursuit, and a shattered guild. Every one of them is deeply imprinted in his mind. Chen has seen the peak. So, Chen realized that Du Shisan was right and decided to wear the gaming helmet and play Heaven's Order. All of a sudden, the system of the game appeared quickly. Then, Chen was amazed that he felt like he was traveling through a sea of data. As he was about to be finished, Chen wondered if the Yueheng Group's virtual technology was so advanced. Following that, Chen was teleported into the Temple of Guidance. Chen looked around the place, and he was astonished that everything was realistic, as if he had come to another palace, that he described every touch and texture of the stone pillars are also simulated, and it's worthy of being a masterpiece beyond Spirit's Pain. Suddenly, a voice greeted him, saying welcome to the Temple of Guidance, Chen, which immediately caught his attention. It turned out it was a fairy, and she introduced herself as the system Sprite Yu, and Chen greeted him. Then, Sprite Yu informed him that after confirmation, he was a CGL Hall of Fame member in the Z country region, and he had exclusive ID privilege, and asked if he wanted to continue using his ID, Chen. Hearing it, Chen went silent for a moment, and thought Chen's in-game name had become the biggest joke of the Hall of Fame. Then, he looked at the window system as he put in his ID, and realized that if he changed his in-game name, it indicated a new start since he was no longer the Hall of Fame member, but the player, Broken Spear Sinking Sand Someday. So, Chen decided that was his in-game name and quickly clicked the confirm on the screen. The Sprite Yu read and clarified if it was a Broken Spear Sinking Sand, and Chen smirked and agreed. All of a sudden, Chen laughed weirdly and explained the iron still hadn't melted. He'd grind and wash to recognize the former dynasty. Using these 4 words are very poetic and very representative. He the remnant of ancient sword dream soul. That he was back, while the system Sprite Yu was terrified. Then, Sprite Yu asked if he wanted to start the race and profession selection, and Chen told her to start. Suddenly, Sprite Yu announced that it was 10 professions debut, and the profession had appeared in front of him. Upon looking at it, Chen wondered which profession was more suitable for him, and he looked at the mobile knight and the balanced warrior. Then, Lu Chen turned around and thought the single Tager damage bursting archer. Because of that, Lu Chen couldn't choose and thought to go back on his old line warrior. Suddenly, the window popped up, informing that the helmet's initial operation needed to draw blood samples for players' body detection. A small syringe appeared on the helmet and started to collect a blood sample from Lu Chen. The window system popped up again, informing him that blood sampling was in progress. Upon reading it, Lu Chen was confused about the blood sample and asked if the helmet had blood sampling on it while his body started to shake. Shortly after, the system notified him that blood sampling was completed and Lu Chen's body detection would be started. Then, an immense system notified, but this time it turned red, saying his heart rate was lower than the normal human standard by 30%, and his body temperature is lower than the normal standard by 70%, and his blood activity concentration is lower than the normal standard by 40%, and his brain wave response exceeds the normal human standard by 120%. Lastly, his vital signs are lower than the normal human standard by 50%, to which Lu Chen was panic as he didn't know why all of his detection was turned red, or his VIP-level helmet was a knockoff. Suddenly, a large red light has emerged in his room. Afterward, Sprite Yu informed him that, according to his special physique, the system could unlock a hidden profession for him, and Lu Chen asked what kind of hidden profession it was, so Sprite Yu asked if he wanted to unlock it, to which Lu Chen agreed. Shortly after, the system popped up, and they gave him the Death Knight. It was the strongest warrior in Hell, the descendant of the Azura clan, the master of the dead power in Hell, and the ruler of all night spirits. Upon reading it, Lu Chen was surprised as he knew what kind of this profession was. It appeared in front of him what looked like Lu Chen was stunned as he knew Death Knight, a warrior profession from a special race, and to Lu Chen, he was indeed perfect. Then, the system popped up, informing him that time was already up and the game was about to start, and asked him if he wanted to enter the game right away, to which Lu Chen agreed. Soon after, at the Chaos Corp's Rigby Novice Village, a voice can be heard, saying "Wake up," and calling him the abandoned dead, to which a skeleton hand rises from the ground. It turns out that it was Lu Chen transformed into a skeleton that had just been raised from the grave, and cursing why he was starting point in the dirt. As he stood up, the system notified him that the skeleton of death, the apprentice form of Death Knight, which Lu Chen couldn't believe he turned into a skeleton, and he expected to be a Death Knight figure. But Lu Chen had no choice to accept it, since it's a special profession. But then, he realized that since he didn't have flesh and blood, and he quickly checked his pants and understood he was a man of iron bones and hot blood. All of a sudden, the system notified, informing the Chaos Corp's Ridge Novice Village undead chief Mage Niwen had arrived, and a man appeared calling him a little skeleton, which Lu Chen was surprised and asked who is he. So the man introduced himself, saying he was the chief of Chaos Corp's Ridge Novice Village, undead Mage Niwen, and telling him to take his sword, and he embark on his journey, and he must fight for the of night spirits with blood and courage. So Lu Chen was startled and started cursing him, and the system notified him, informing him that he received a set of novice equipment from the chief of Chaos Corps. After that, Lu Chen opened his inventory, and it contained a broken iron sword and a ripped cloth shirt, but he knew it was better than nothing. Even though he was hesitant, Lu Chen decided to put them all on as he clicked the equipment on the screen. Shortly after, Lu Chen's gear had been successfully put on, along with his sword, saying the Death Knight was here, and he expected that with the equipment on, his attributes must have skyrocketed. Speaking of that, Lu Chen sat quickly and checked his attribute panel. Seeing it, Lu Chen disbelieved that his attributes were way too low. He got to level 0 HP. 100 attack 1 to 2, defense 1, magic defense 0, reputation 0, and luck 0. Suddenly, Mage Niwen appeared on his back, asking if he wanted to become stronger, and Lu Chen was startled. Mage Niwen asked again if he wanted to give him some pointers and spoils, and that he had some tricks. So, Lu Chen declined his offer, and explained that he wouldn't sell himself. Even though Lu Chen declined his offer, Mage Niwen insisted that he accept the task and teased him he didn't have any meat to sell anyway. Then the system notified informing that he must kill 20 big-eared rabbits, collect 5 coarse leg hairs from big-eared rabbits, and give them to the chief of Chaos Corps, and he will get a certain reward. To which Lu Chen accepted the task in F-level lower class, that Lu Chen thought it was easy for him, since he needed to kill 20 rabbits. Soon after, he was teleported to the Carrot Grassland, where a lot of big-eared rabbits can be seen, and their levels as well. As he arrived, Lu Chen immediately dashed towards the rabbit and confidently started attacking them. After that, Lu Chen sighed deeply as he thought it was going to be easy, and he wasn't aware there was an upcoming rabbit towards him. As he noticed it, Lu Chen was confidently swinging his sword, daring the rabbit to come over him. Lu Chen observes that there is a variety of rabbits, and it will appear in this position after 3 seconds, and swing his sword quickly. But then, Lu Chen was surprised that all of his attack was missed, and he didn't expect that those rabbits were super fast. All of a sudden, the rabbit kicked Lu Chen in the face, causing his jaw to be dislocated and his HP to decrease to 15. Because of that, Lu Chen couldn't understand why it failed even though he had attacked 3 seconds in advance to correct the delay. Lu Chen didn't stop there, and he dueled the rabbit, while the rabbit was rushing on him. But then, as he swung his sword, Lu Chen's attack missed again, while the rabbit was continuously attacking him. As a result, the rabbit was on the tip of Lu Chen's sword as it was teasing him, while Lu Chen couldn't believe it just happened again. So, Lu Chen tried again, but by the time he was going to attack, it only missed it, and the rabbit was freely hitting him, causing his HP to decrease. When he was about to fall, his status was in a dangerous state, and his HP was low, but Lu Chen understood that it was not that the rabbits were fast, but his delay had decreased. So Lu Chen shouted as he called Du Shursan and Candle Shadow Chaos, and promised that the number swordsman in the world is going back. Shortly after, Lu Chen respawned at the respawn point, and he still couldn't believe that he was killed by a bunch of rabbits. As he was walking, Lu Chen promised himself that it couldn't be known by Du Shursan and the others, or it might cause him to embarrass himself. Lu Chen was puzzled and confused about how his delay decreased to 0.9 seconds, while he touched his head and suddenly felt a bit dizzy, that he always felt like he forgot something. Lu Chen thought carefully that maybe he'd remember something, as he started to recall a sports car that had been bumped into somewhere, a baseball bat filled with blood, his game birthplace, and lastly, a man named Guan Yu, causing him to question what is this to do with him. But Lu Chen remembered what the doctor had said to him, that his nerves have a certain probability of self-repairing, and he began to think that it might be the self-repairing the doctor mentioned to him. Lu Chen set aside that as he needed to clear his task first, while he was headed where the rabbits were. As he arrived, the system notified him that the weak point of the big-eared rabbit was on its neck, and he got a 50% damage bonus. Then Lu Chen surprised the rabbits, causing them to get infuriated. Without any delay, Lu Chen quickly slashed the rabbits and gained 5 EXP each killed, which Lu Chen was delighted that the feeling of reduced delay is way too awesome, and the current delay is 0.9 seconds. On the other hand, Lu Chen had a feeling of being overwhelmed by his power, and asked who was next to fight him. However, Lu Chen notices something approaching him from a distance, and he quickly turns around. Suddenly, a body of player had been thrown in front of him. Luckily, Lu Chen's quickly blocked it. Lu Chen realized that it was a player, causing him to wonder how the player had been beaten so badly. While Lu Chen held the body, he called the monster, saying, "Come on." From a distance, a emasculated and gigantic monster was holding a player, and it caught his attention to Lu Chen. It turns out it was a level 10 king of the big-eared rabbits, and his HP was 300, and the system notified him it was the ruler of the Carrot Grassland, a temperamental muscle monster. All of a sudden, the king rabbit swung the body of the player and tossed it towards Lu Chen, while the player begged for help. But then, Lu Chen used his other companion to block his other companion, causing them to bump into each other's heads. After that, Lu Chen teleported them back to their base and bid farewell to them, jokingly saying he would avenge them. Then, Lu Chen prepared himself as the king rabbit slowly approached him, and he knew it was the first time he'd be facing the boss after reducing the delay, and because of that, Lu Chen was excited about it. While Lu Chen held his sword, he noticed something odd in the king rabbit's hands. Upon observing it, Lu Chen was surprised that it was a brass knuckle, and he must be a social king rabbit. As they were both ready for their weapons, Lu Chen told himself to stay calm. Since the king rabbit had a brass knuckle, it should be a close-range fast attack type, and the best way to deal with this kind of opponent is to be still and wait. Shortly after, the king rabbit swiftly swung his hands, and Lu Chen avoided his attack, causing him to be shocked. Turns out, the king rabbit used his fist's wind, causing his HP to take 25 points. The system notified him that, with the undying nature of the undead before the blood ran out, the undead swordsman could quickly repair the damaged bones and keep the skeleton from intact blood not recovering, which his damaged bones starting to repair. Thus, Lu Chen immediately attacked King Rabbit, and he managed to hit him in the chest, which damaged him with a critical hit and HP decreased to 8. Upon observing it, Chen struggled that his critical hit did 8 points of damage only. Even though he knew that the king rabbit was quite hard, still he swung his sword and attacked him. After that, Chen repositioned himself and told the king rabbit to fight on him, while the king rabbit was chasing him. At full speed, the king rabbit jumps at Chen, but Chen uses this strategy as he avoids the attack while his sword dashes it into his neck. However, Chen was shocked that there was a hidden armor under his fur. Because Chen avoided the attack, so the king rabbit caused a devastating strike on the tree. Upon seeing it, Chen was glad that he hadn't been hit by that fatal punch. He might turned into a piece. Then, the king rabbit saw him from a distance and Chen knew he was frightened since the weak point of the king rabbit had armor. Then he recalled the system said that according to the blood damage, the king rabbit could make dozens of mistakes, but if he make even a single one, he's done. But then, Chen notices something odd on the king rabbit. Chen knew that the king rabbit was infuriated, causing the king rabbit to grab the whole tree. So, Chen was stunned after seeing it and jokingly said that the king rabbit was a good guy who'd pulled out the whole tree. Due to his rage, the king rabbit at full speed he throws the whole tree in Chen's direction, while Chen prepares himself for the upcoming attack. Chen used his normal combo attack and confidently managed to slice it into pieces, and told that even if he couldn't cut him, he could cut a tree. To his surprise, the king rabbit was behind that tree, aiming his punch at Chen, while Chen was stunned that he didn't expect that it was a kind of ambush. So, King Rabbit thought he succeeded in hitting Chen. Suddenly, Chen managed to counter his attack and stabbed him in the face, causing him to get injured on his face, which Chen noticed was normal damage, and the HP of the king rabbit had lowered to 272. While the king rabbit was going to attack and punch him again, Chen realized that it must be his eyes that were his real weakness. Because of that, the king rabbit managed to give Chen a fatal blow on his face, causing his HP to reduce to 15, which Chen cursed himself that he got distracted. Chen's jaw had been dislocated and tossed in the air, but for Chen, he was lucky that he followed the direction of fist and unloaded his chin, and only causing 15 points of damage. However, the king rabbit punched him again, but this time on the ribs, causing Chen to reduce his HP to 40, and his ribs were shattered into pieces. Because of that, the king rabbit got more infuriated and tossed Chen in the mid-air, and he got bumped into a tree. Chen was weakened and was hung up inside the tree, while his status was critical shape since his hanger was 85%, his HP was 5%, and his MP was 87%. So, the king rabbit saw him helpless on the tree. He quickly ran towards him. Then, the king rabbit hit him again with his fatal punch and thought Chen was going to be dead. But then, the king rabbit notices something on his hands. Turns out, the king rabbit's hands were tangled by the dead vine, causing his hands to be stuck inside the tree. Meanwhile, Chen was on the top of the tree, calling the king rabbit and teasing him as well. Chen asked if he liked the gift that he prepared for him, and informed the rabbit king that it was a dead tree full of tangled vines. Once he got entangled there, it was hard to pull out. While the king rabbit was trying to remove his hands, Chen told him it was useless, unless he would destroy the whole tree. So Chen pulled out his sword and aimed at the king rabbit, while Chen told him that he hadn't a chance right now. Because of that, the king rabbit was frightened when he heard it. Shortly after, Chen stabbed his sword into the eyes of the king rabbit, and it damaged him a lot, and the king rabbit's HP lowered to 172. Upon looking at him, Chen knew it was his eyes were indeed his weakness, and it caused 100 points of critical damage. Then the system notified him that King Rabbit fell into a rage. His attack power was increased by 50%, speed decreased by 50%, and defense decreased by 50%, to which Chen was surprised that he had a defense speed for attack, and mocked him that he was already blind, that he couldn't use his attack power. Thus, Chen continuously attacked him, causing his HP was getting lower and lower at the same time. By this time, the King Rabbit HP has 38 left, so Chen bids farewell to the King Rabbit and hits his final blow on him. Chen managed to behead the King Rabbit and successfully defeated him. The system notified and congratulated him on defeating the King of Rabbits, and leveled up to 4 and received the boss reward, which Chen was excited to his rewards. Then the rewards appeared. He would receive the King Rabbit glowing chest plate with a quality black stone type. Its physical defense was +9, health +20, and required must be level 2, while the other one was a magic gemstone, Its quality was 77%. It was a special gemstone rich in magic power that can be traded with merchants for a certain amount of gold coins, which Lu Chen was astonished by his rewards. Lu Chen quickly equipped the glowing chest plate, and he was glad that finally he had some decent gear. The system popped up and informed him that he had received a 10 free points bonus, and he could add points to his 4 primary attributes, which are life, mana, strength, and agility. So, Lu Chen checked his stats and started to think about where could he put those points. But he thought of his life because he had a chest plate already, and he hadn't any skill, since mana is not urgent, and agility can be compensated by reaction speed. Lu Chen decided to put his all free points to strength, and his status started to change, and his strength increased. So Lu Chen gained a total of 11 to 16 points of attack power, and Lu Chen realized that it seemed that the undead swordsman class had a good strength growth, and had 5 points of strength equivalent to 3 to 5 points of attack power. After that, Lu Chen quickly runs towards the corpse of King Rabbit, since he hasn't collected a single leg hair on it. Meanwhile, Lu Chen handed the piece of hair to the village chief and confidently asked how his task was, and the mage Naiwen complimented him and handed him his reward. Shortly after, the system popped up informing him that he completed the task which killed the King Rabbit and gained 150 experience points, following the 10 copper coins and reputation value +1, and level up to level 5 got a bonus of 5 free points. So Lu Chen was cheerfully accepted his rewards and asked if he got some more tasks, which Mage Naiwen agreed and told him to accept those new tasks. So Lu Chen accepted the task and the system popped up informing him that he must hunt a green mantis, task level F medium, and the task content was he must go to the Morning Light Forest, kill 100 green mantises, and collect 10 green mantis blades and give them to the village chief, which Lu Chen asked where could he find a merchant to buy some red medicine to prepare for a long battle. Surprisingly, the village chief happily introduced himself as a merchant, and Lu Chen was surprised that he was into business as well. Shortly after, Lu Chen handed the magic stone to the village chief and asked how much it was worth, and the village chief described it as a good quality and offered him 1540 copper coins for the magic stone. Hearing it, Lu Chen's eyes turned into a money sign, that those magic stones directly amounted to 1540 copper coins, although the work reward was merely 10 copper coins. As long as the quantity was large, copper coins could also shine. So, Lu Chen cheerfully agreed to their deal and asked if he had any red medicine, to which the village chief happily agreed and assured him that he would be satisfied. Then the system popped up, informing him that it was a basic red potion, priced at 50 copper points, and its effect was to restore 80 points of life. After purchasing, the village chief thanked Lu Chen, while Lu Chen cried about the price and felt betrayed that he bought 20 bottles at the time and he didn't give any discount. Afterward, Lu Chen arrived at the Morning Light Forest, and a signage posted said it was a mad dragon guild and warned not to trespass for idlers. After reading it, Lu Chen wondered what they meant about no trespassing for idlers since he's not even a human at all. Suddenly, Lu Chen saw 2 players running for their lives, causing him to wonder who are they and why they were running. On the other side, it was the same 2 players earlier, running as fast as they could, that they knew they were chasing them. Hearing it, Lu Chen was surprised that they were actually brothers and questioned how they ended up here. But then, his other brother notices Lu Chen from a distance and tells his brother there is a spirit knight in front of them and a mad dragon behind. The heavens want to destroy them. So his younger brother is terrified and asks what should they do. So his older brother had no choice and told him they would fight Lu Chen, and his younger brother agreed and explained that at mere level 5 they could easily handle it. All of a sudden, an arrow hits his older brother, causing him to be startled, while his younger brother freezes for a moment as he looks at his brother. As he was about to help his brother, another arrow was fired at him, but due to his panic, he couldn't move a little bit to save himself. Luckily for him, Lu Chen caught the arrow quickly, causing him to be startled. Because of that, they were saved by Lu Chen, and the younger brother thanked him and asked his older brother if he was okay. So his brother assured him that he wouldn't die, but then Lu Chen suggested they should leave as soon as possible, while a lot of arrows were coming towards them. Then Lu Chen quickly rushed toward where the arrow came from. He knew that arrows are fast, but the trajectory was too simple. With his current reaction speed, Lu Chen easily avoided those arrows and assured those arrows couldn't touch him at all. On the other side, a level 7 archer from Mad Dragon Guild named Xiahua Rong felt pressured that Lu Chen dodged all his arrows. So, Rong cast his ultimate skill called Clan Wind Burst, as he belittled Lu Chen that he was a mere level 5 trash skeleton pretending to be a savior. However, Lu Chen countered his attack and sliced his arrow in half, saying his ultimate was useless. Upon seeing it, Rong was shocked that Lu Chen actually sliced his arrow in half, and told him to fight him again. While Rong pulls out his arrow, he notices that Lu Chen smoothly dashes behind him, causing him to be startled that it is too fast. All of a sudden, Lu Chen makes a surprise attack as he swings his sword, aiming it at Rong, and bids farewell to him, which makes Rong stunned. Lu Chen successfully strikes his sword on Rong, giving him a critical hit to 135, leading to Rong to be defeated, while Lu Chen expects that the archers are still as fragile as ever. From a distance, a loud noise was scattered all over the place, and Lu Chen was confused about what kind of noise is that, since new players cannot create such a large commotion when battling. Lu Chen came to his mind that it might be the Mad Dragon Guild that cleared the field to surround the boss, and felt bad for himself that there was still him the fish that slipped through the net. Meanwhile, deep in the morning light forest, where the Mad Dragon Guild can be seen fighting a monster, while their leader is watching over them. It turns out that it was level 15 King Green Mantis, who was screaming after receiving a lot of damage, and he had a 600 left on his HP. The man called his allies, informing them they had already worn down half of the boss's blood, and each of the dead allies would receive 300 yuan in compensation, and the allies who lost levels as a result of death would receive an additional 500 yuan. The man was a level 9 knight named Dragon Reign Supreme, reminding them if they killed the boss, 1 drop of blood and a reward of 50 yuan, and previous ones will be also rewarded. Hearing it, Lu Chen was astonished that Dragon Reign Supreme was a crazy tycoon that every 1,200 drops of blood is equal to 60,000 yuan, and spending so much money to kill an F-level boss. Hearing it, his allies were encouraged to kill King Mantis and started to rush towards King Mantis, saying for their young master and Mad Dragon Guild. Unfortunately, his allies were sliced into pieces, leading to their instant death. After seeing it, Lu Chen compared the King Mantis was stronger than the King Rabbit because the terrifying damage was way intensified, causing him to wonder if the remaining people of the Mad Dragon hold on until the end. On the other side, Dragon Reign Supreme ordered them not to stop, and that they must keep on going and pay attention to coordination and positioning, and he instructed them to first attract the boss's aggro, and take advantage of the boss's attack, and they must concentrate on attacking, and use the King Mantis skill cooldown time, 1 hit and retreat, which his allies agreed. Upon hearing it, Lu Chen disbelieved and questioned Dragon Reign Supreme about his battlefield command that it might be too risky for his allies. Based on what he heard, this kind of brainless attack causes heavy losses to one's side, and he becomes suspicious that Dragon Reign Supreme wanted to use other people's lives to slowly grind the boss to death. While his allies were busy fighting on the King Mantis, Lu Chen's observation was even though they had a death compensation of 300 yuan per person, if you lost a level add another 500 yuan, and the Mad Dragon Guild had 50 people on the scene, all death and level losses will cost 40,000 yuan. Lu Chen estimated it from the blood volume reward plus death compensation. Dragon Reign Supreme would eventually spend 100,000 yuan for an F-level boss's first kill, while some of their allies managed to hit the King Mantis. So the remaining HP of the King Mantis was 416 left. Then, the King Mantis slashed those allies who did not successfully escape near him, while Dragon Reign Supreme told everyone that he didn't care about those people who didn't get out, and ordered the archers to shoot the King Mantis, to which they started to fire the King Mantis. Due to continuous attacks, King Mantis received a lot of damage from that, so his current HP left was 60. Upon seeing it, Dragon Reign Supreme was delighted that they hit has been manifesting for, and complimented them saying they did a great job. So, he instructed them when the King Mantis has only a sliver of blood left, they should stop attacking as he would finish it off. Meanwhile, Lu Chen was disgusted about what Dragon Reign Supreme did, and didn't wonder what he had almost level 10. Turns out he monopolized 50% of the boss's final experience. Suddenly, King Mantis had evolved, and a lot of new arms had appeared on his back, causing every archer to panic. Turns out it was a skill called 6-Armed Green Mantis. King enters the Berserk state, grows 6 blade arms, increases his attack power by 100%, defense power by 50%, and speed by 100%. Lu Chen noticed the King Mantis was in a state of berserk, and shocked at the same time. The King Mantis started to slice the other allies into pieces, while the others were ready to fight for the sake of the money, and started to attack him. Because of that, They successfully hit the King Mantis, causing his HP to get very low. So, Dragon Reign Supreme got even more excited as he saw the remaining HP of the King Mantis and instructed them to keep going, and they needed to use their lives to create an opportunity for him since the blood volume was almost gone. Shortly after, both Chen and Dragon Reign Supreme noticed the HP remaining was 3%, and they both knew that it was about time to take action. Then, Dragon Reign Supreme quickly rushed toward the King Mantis and struck it using his spear, while the King Mantis saw him. Suddenly, Chen countered his attack using his sword, causing him to wonder why someone had stopped him. While King Mantis jumped and repositioned himself, Chen and Dragon Reign Supreme had crossed paths, and Dragon Reign Supreme asked who was he. So, Chen explained that he was just an ordinary passerby, that he just happened to pass by there, and he was here to get justice for those players who were violently driven away by him. Hearing it, Dragon Reign Supreme was already suspicious and asked him why he only showed up when he was going to finish the King Mantis. Then, Chen jokingly explained that he was only there to purify the game environment, but the truth was attempting to collect some boss as compensation. All of a sudden, Dragon Reign Supreme got infuriated as he threw his weapons toward Chen and told him not to dare touch his things, while the King Mantis attacked Chen too. So Chen noticed that Dragon Reign Supreme using a pincer attack. So Chen quickly grabbed the arm of King Mantis, which he used as a shield, repositioned himself, and swiftly swung his sword at Dragon Reign Supreme. Shortly after, Chen successfully stabbed Dragon Reign Supreme, and it damaged him with 250 critical hits. After that, Chen stood up and told him that he should practice his skills more, and called him a young master. While Dragon Reign Supreme was slowly fading, he told Chen how dare he steal his things and wondered how many lives he had, and Chen told him that money was not the way to go. Then, Chen turned around and looked at King Mantis while holding his arms and told him not to worry, he'd be with him soon. Shortly after, Chen put his final blow to the King Mantis and struck his sword on him. Chen successfully defeated the King Mantis, and the system popped up congratulating him for getting the first kill of the King Mantis, while Chen was excited about his rewards. Suddenly, the system notified and warned him that his life index was below the minimum limit. He would be forced offline, and the system would automatically save the experience and equipment that he obtained after killing the boss, which Chen was confused about. Back in the real world, Chen quickly removed his gaming helmet and put it on his table. Chen scratched his head and was confused as to why he was suddenly forced offline after killing the boss, causing him to wonder what the system meant about the warning. But then there was something rash on his face. All of a sudden, there was a loud knocking on his door, and he wondered who was knocking on his door in the middle of the night. But before he opened the door, Chen prepared his bat as protection. So he opened the door and was surprised that Du Shisan was in there, which Du Shisan told him that he was worried about him since he didn't reply to his messages or answer his calls after that. As he was about to ask what he was doing, Du Shisan was shocked upon seeing his face. Du Shisan started to shake as he was looking at his face and started calling Chen a zombie. Upon hearing it, Chen got confused as to why he was constantly called a zombie and asked where that came from. So, Du Shisan grabbed his phone and suggested that to see it himself, as he handed his phone to Chen. Due to his curiosity, Chen immediately moves closer to his phone and checks what happened to his face and makes him freeze for a moment. Upon seeing it, Chen was shocked and asked what happened to his face, which Du Shisan explained was a corpse fog spot that only corpses have, and the spots are expanding and changing at a visible speed. Hearing it, Chen didn't believe what Du Shisan said and suspected this was just some kind of skin allergy, to which Du Shisan said that if he didn't believe in him, Du Shisan could take him to his dad's hospital and check it out, and informed it was exactly the same as what was recorded on forensic data. As he was about to get inside, suddenly Chen lost his balance and wondered how could he possibly have this kind of thing, as he complained that his head hurt so much, to which Du Shisan supported Chen not falling completely on the floor, and assures him that he would take him on the hospital as soon as possible. A little while, at the 4th People's Hospital emergency room, the medical director Du Zhongjing was surprised and confirmed it was really the corpse spots. Director Du continuously checks his heartbeat, while Du Shisan asks how his situation is, and explains to him that it is kind of hard to say for now, and that they should go for a blood test first, and he arranges a PET-CT scan. Soon after they finished checking his blood, Director Du was shocked that there was actually a kind of virus like that. Inside the hematology laboratory, Chen asked how was the blood test results, and Director Du explained the conclusion was that it wasn't as easy as it should since this disease had never been seen before, and there was a giant virus in Chen's blood that goes beyond biological logic. Then Chen was shocked upon hearing about the giant virus, which he asked if could it be that he was infected with the zombie virus. Director Du explained that it was not that exaggerated, but the weird thing is that it doesn't attack his healthy cells, but instead, it repairs his damaged cells. Director Du stated that because he had too many damaged cells in his body, this objectively slowed down the speed of his blood circulation, which Chen asked what he meant by slowing down his blood circulation speed. Director Du explained that corpse spots are, after all, caused by the disappearance of blood circulation. Chen's current situation is because the blood flow speed is slow, causing some blood to accumulate on the surface of the skin. Chen's current blood circulation speed was gradually slowing down, and warned him that once his blood flow stopped, he was very likely will die from the disappearance of the circulation, causing Chen and Du Shisan to be surprised. But then, Director Du tapped his arm and assured him, saying he mustn't be discouraged now since the medical technology is so advanced. There must be a way, and informing him that the PET CT is ready as they should check if the virus has any other effects on his body. So Chen thanked Director Du, and Director Du told him to not be so polite with him, and suddenly asked if he experienced anything strange these past few days. Hearing it, Chen recalled a red door with a seal on it, instantly changed his mood, and told them he hadn't experienced something odd recently. They arrived at the CT room. Chen was on the hospital bed already, and the system started him scanning from feet all the way to his head. Meanwhile, Director Du and his son Du Shisan were spectating at Chen. Then Du Shisan asked if he suspected Chen was hiding something. Director Du told his son that he just wanted to confirm that he may really remember what happened to his body, and it was his protective mechanism of the brain. Upon hearing it, Du Shisan asked if Chen had post-traumatic stress disorder, forcing himself to forget some things, and Director Du agreed and complimented that Du Shisan really read some medical books at their home. Director Du explained that judging from Chen's blood circulation disappearance speed, Chen should have suffered a heavy blow before, and may even have died once. The situation is not optimistic for now, and they must inform Chen's family as soon as possible. Thus, Du Shisan gritted his teeth due to his disappointment and confusion at the same time, while Chen felt as if that scanner was passing through his body. So, Du Shisan immediately entered the CT room and told Director Du that he would film Chen right, and that he must take care of Chen, which Director Du assured him. All of a sudden, Du Shisan screamed, which Director Du heard and got startled as well. Then, Director Du quickly entered the room. He got infuriated and asked what he was screaming about in the hospital in the middle of the night, while Du Shisan froze in shock. Du Shisan pointed at something and told Director Du to look at it, and at that moment Director Du was confused. Turns out, Chen's corpse spots had disappeared, and Chen was joyfully checked his body as he checked if the spots were gone. So Director Du was more even curious about how that possible. So Director Du quickly asked how he was feeling right now, and Chen explained that he felt a warm current in his body when he was doing a CT scan, and now he didn't feel any discomfort at all. Then, Director Du was in a state of disbelief as he touched Chen's face, took a closer look, and told him that his face was normal. So he checked his hands, and it normal, same as the pupil on his eyes, causing Director Du to get more confused. Director Du took a step back and believed that Chen's disease had disappeared. Director Du went insane and instructed Chen to hurry up and get the blood equipment over there. But Director Du changed his mind and said they should go to the laboratory instead. Chen felt awkward and told Director Du that he must calm down. 3 hours later, after the lab tests, Chen's face turned into a paled one, and he was tired as well. As they left the laboratory room, Chen could not walk as his body was shivering due to excessive lab tests, and told Du Shisan that Director Du wanted to cut him into pieces and do human research. Du Shisan was concerned and told him that he didn't expect that Director Du actually draws 800 cubic centimeters of his blood for experiments. They arrived at Chen's home, and Du Shisan handed Chen a cup of water and informed him that it confirmed that X-rays have inhibitory effects on the virus, and explained that as long as they test out the most suitable X-ray wavelength for directional irradiation, he would definitely recover, to which Chen agreed. So, Du Shisan suggested to Chen that he must rest first since it was already 6 o'clock in the morning, and he would go buy him some breakfast. So Chen agreed and thanked Du Shisan. After Du Shursen left, Lu Chen checked his hands and recalled what Director Du said that he might suffer a heavy blow, as he started to question himself if he had any impression. Shortly after, Du Shursen arrived at the home and called Lu Chen twice and informed him that at the community gate, a beauty in a sports car was arguing with the security guard. The beauty had a bandage wrapped around her head, and she looks like she was in a hurry to catch a mistress, and asked if he wanted to go downstairs and watch the excitement. Hearing it, Lu Chen was confused and asked if he had any picture of what he was saying, so Du Shursen grabbed his phone and quickly showed it to Lu Chen. In the picture Du Shursen's description was matched on the screen. Upon seeing it, Lu Chen recalled the red door with a chain on it, that it was the boss as he started to remember it slowly, and the chains of the door were shaking. Shortly the chain was damaged. Lu Chen lost consciousness. That night after his first date with the boss, he recalled that he died, as the chain was scattered into pieces. After that, Du Shursen was worried and asked Lu Chen what was wrong with him, which Lu Chen explained that a woman named He was the boss of the ancient sword Dream Soul. So Du Shursen asked if he was his boss. Suddenly, He knocked loudly on the door and told him to open the door, causing Lu Chen to be surprised that she found him so fast. Du Shursen looked at Lu Chen with full questions on his face and asked why he felt like Lu Chen was not here for good. And what did he last night, causing Lu Chen to be more anxious and left speechless. But then, Du Shursen stood up and started to walk toward the door, and told him that since they knew each other, he would open the door and they could talk face to face. Upon hearing it, Lu Chen was more frightened as he heard the opening of the door. So Lu Chen called Du Shursen and told him not to open the door, so he quickly ran, but due to the side effects of the blood test earlier, he fell on the floor. As he fell down, Lu Chen told him that he had something to tell about her, and Du Shursen stopped and looked at Lu Chen. Meanwhile, he knocked continuously and yelled Lu Chen's name, saying she knew he was inside. Du Shursen told He to stop knocking the door so loud it was so early and many people were still sleeping, as he unlocked the door. As soon as the door opened, he quickly pushed Du Shursen and told him to move, so Du Shursen asked what she was doing. He kept calling Lu Chen's name and checking around if he was there, while Du Shursen asked if she needed something. Upon hearing it, He asked where Lu Chen was, that she had heard his voice a while ago, and Du Shursen explained that he didn't know where was Lu Chen, and she must have come to the wrong place. But he didn't believe Du Shursen and insisted that she knew Lu Chen was in this room, to which Du Shursen told her to stop. Du Shursen warned her that she was trespassing on private property, but he didn't care about him and insisted that Lu Chen was in this room. Then, he quickly opened the door and asked if he was hiding from her, causing Du Shursen to get nervous. Upon hearing it, Lu Chen got anxious as he heard the loud banging coming from the door that he was hiding and knew it was He, and thought that maybe Du Shursen hadn't fooled He enough, and ended up she was on the bedroom. But then, He saw an open closet and told Lu Chen that she knew he was there. Lu Chen got more anxious and didn't know what to do, hoping that he wouldn't caught by her. As she was going to open the door, and asked him why he was avoiding her, that she was indeed worried about Lu Chen. As the closet door was slowly opened and the light could be seen on Lu Chen's face, he just froze for a moment and expected that he was done. However, Du Shursen shouted that Lu Chen was already dead, causing He to stop. Upon hearing it, He's hands were started to shake and told Du Shursen that impossible, while Du Shursen was glad that she didn't completely open the closet door. She quickly turned around as tears streamed down He's eyes and told him that it was impossible, that Lu Chen was not dead, and he must lying to her, to which Du Shursen explained that it was true, that they could go to the 4th hospital and check the death report. Because of that, He immediately pushed away Du Shursen and immediately left the room. He cried so hard that she even called Lu Chen a liar, while Du Shursen was checking her if she really left the building. After that, Du Shursen called Director Du and asked for help. So Du Shursen goes to the closet and opens the door, so he informs that He is gone, and asks if this is a great idea to do. Lu Chen got out of the closet and explained that in the hospital, he was naive enough to think that as long as he used X-ray treatment, his body would be a normal person. But after the memory lock was broken, he didn't even dare to confirm whether he was alive or not. Lu Chen added that rather than giving the boss hope and then tearing it apart, it's better to give her despair directly, and that way the pain will be less. But then Du Shursen told him that he was making him more confused and asked what happened to him last night. So Lu Chen confesses that he was buried alive. Hearing it, Du Shursen couldn't believe what he just heard, and Lu Chen stated that yesterday afternoon, he went to meet He, At first he thought it was just a normal online friend meeting, and didn't expect He to turn out to be the vice president of GGS Asia. Chen stated that He turned his game equipment into 200,000 yuan, invited him to join her new studio, and expressed her feelings for him, but he rejected them all. Chen felt sad that with his 3-second delay status, he would only be a burden to He, and he didn't want He to waste time on someone like him. Then one day He insisted on dropping him on his way home. There was an accident occurred. It was the rival who competed with He for the position of Asia SWA that their victory was hopeless, so they set a trap on the way wanting to kill them. While Chen protected He and mentioned that the other party was more in numbers and armed, in order to save his life, he ignited the car's fuel tank. But the explosion only delayed for a minute. Chen stated that He, who was stunned by the blast wave, was thrown by him onto a passing tractor, and Chen stayed behind her. Seeing that the plan failed and their prey escaped, the furious killers vented all their anger on him. Chen elaborates that he was beaten by them to the point of dying. Maybe they thought he was dead, but after venting their anger, they dragged him to the chaotic burial mound in the north of the city, and he was buried alive by them. Hearing it, San was terrified and felt pity for Chen's status. So Chen defined himself as lucky since there was no way out of heaven. The heavy rain last night saved him. The solid that buried him very loose because of the heavy rain, and he lost consciousness and crawled out of the ground like a zombie, and he didn't know how he moved and only felt the pain in his body gradually disappearing. When he regained consciousness, he was standing at the door of his house, and there was no wound on his body and only a faint pain in the back of his head. So San was astonished that since Chen was infected with a giant virus after being buried, and the virus is constantly repairing his body, and it was incredible. But then Chen asked San if he thought that he was still alive, and San explained that all the mysteries are hidden in the chaotic burial mound in the north of the city. It seems that they have to go there, which Chen told him that he would come with him. However, San disagreed with Chen's plan, and he supported him in reaching the table, and told him that he needed a good rest. Sen pulled a piece of bread and told Chen that he must eat first, and that he would go out for a while, and Chen asked if he was going to the chaotic burial mound right now. So Sen disagreed, and explained that it was about forging his death certificate, that Director Du almost scolded him to death just now, and asked when he was going to take his gaming helmet. As Chen bites the bread, he tells San he will take it away later. After a while, San arrived at the 4th Hospital Expert Conference Room and called Director Du that he was already there, while he was carrying a box. All of a sudden, San was surprised that there were a lot of old men in the room, which made him confused.